Hello and welcome to our latest and greatest edition of Better Together Arizona. I am your host, Angela Hughey. This is such an important conversation today, right? We are a few short months into the current administration, and the one thing that has been very consistent is financial uncertainty for most American households, right? We've had a sweeping anti-DEI push. We've had Liberation Day. We have tariff uncertainty. The tariffs are on, and then they're off, and then they're pushed down the road for 90 days. And then there's, 140 characters that say these are back on. And so everyone is just kind of bouncing around. And so this financial insecurity and uncertainty is a really, really consistent topic for individuals and businesses alike, which is why I asked my dear friend, Catherine Scrivano, to join me for today's show, because Catherine is amazing. She's a highly experienced financial planner. She has over 30 years of industry experience based in the beautiful Valley of the Sun here in Arizona. She's known for helping a very diverse group of clientele, small businesses, families, and she's really good at helping folks navigate the complexities of finance to pursue their dreams. I have to tell you, when I've looked at our stock portfolio this year, Catherine, our dreams have been all over the place because our portfolio has, it's been like riding a roller coaster. So super excited to talk to you about this. But before we get started, I just want to talk about just like how you've always been with one community. You have signed the Unity Pledge twice. You signed on behalf of Casco Financial, but one of the first times you signed the pledge was right when we first launched it, and that was as the chair of the YWCA of Arizona. And I remember what an important signing that was, and this was a new idea to ask businesses and organizations to actually publicly state that they believed in an fully inclusive Arizona, that they believed in LGBTQ plus inclusion in the workplace and in our great state. And so it was not for the faint at heart in the early days, and you never wavered. So grateful for your commitment to just a really inclusive Arizona. So with all that being said, I'm going to give you a chance to talk. I'm sorry. You're just such an impressive human being.
That's very nice of you.
And you've always been very courageous, and I think you have always let people know what your values are. And I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today really is going to be about values investing too. So, but let's start off with like where we're at, right? This current economic climate. I mean, I've read an article recently that said consumer sentiment was where it was during the 1990s recession, right? People really feel uncertainty. They're kind of hanging on to their money in a way that they did over 30 years ago. Talk about where we're at today and what we can learn.
Well, we can always learn from past experience.
Yep.
That's probably a given. Probably the hallmark of adulthood is recognizing that, if we have an opportunity to learn, we should take it. And if we find ourselves doing the same thing over and over again, chances are very good we just have not identified the lesson. So there's my hallmark of adulthood right there, and financial maturity as well. Comparing to 1990 is relevant. Also comparisons to 2008, the global financial crisis, our recent experience with COVID-19. There's a lot of touch points we can look back at and say, okay, what did we learn, or what could we have learned from those experiences? There's a saying in our world that the most foolish thing you can say on Wall Street is, oh, it's different this time, because it kind of never is. The experience feels different because it's the first time many have been through it. And so it gets a whole lot of attention, a whole lot of conversation. But if we look historically, really since the founding of our country, we've been dealing with some of the same things, concern about authoritarianism, et cetera, that affect markets. So we can look back and go, okay, what could we have done differently to prevail? Let's do that.
So we need to learn from the past. I have a feeling you're going to tell us that we probably need to kind of take a deep breath too, right? But the big thing is, uh, no one likes uncertainty. And every leader that I've talked to, whether it's a community-based organization or they're a business leader, the very consistent through line in conversations has been, we understand that there's an ebb and flow. We understand that, there's times when things are good and times when things are, not so good. And, we're the economy's doing great and then, or, we don't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's this uncertainty word that keeps popping up that really seems to have folks really, I would say, kind of back on their heels. And just there's a nervousness, a palpable nervousness with individuals and households and organizations that are, that do great work that so many of us here in Arizona rely on. And then you've got this crazy market. So talk about this uncertainty and how we kind of move through it.
Well, I think the challenge, you talk about business owners, community leaders, leaders of households. We all have the same need for facts. There are certain things that we expect to be true, and when those are disrupted, that's where uncertainty becomes something that either makes us overreact. I think what I'm seeing a lot of right now is just paralysis. We're overanalyzing and we're just stopping, afraid to do anything for fear that it's wrong. And that really comes back to the fact that we don't have facts. Unfortunately, trying to be diplomatic, a lot of the information we're receiving is just plain not true.
Yeah.
So having to weed through the falsehoods
Yeah, we
and
have to
find the reality.
sift through all the noise, right?
Yep. And that's very intentional, I believe.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
is
there's no
extreme.
doubt about it. This is an administration that is very consciously creating chaos.
Mhm.
Doge is chaotic. The tariffs are chaotic. The taco. I always enjoy tacos. I might enjoy them
Yeah.
more now. Is a new acronym that's being floated around. But I mean, we're just playing this. It feels like we're playing a game of chicken. The bond markets got
But
really
it's
shaky.
really important for we who are making decisions, especially around financial decisions that we're concentrating on today, that we acknowledge what is distraction versus what is actual information that requires action or a decision on our part. I'm going tomorrow night to a magic show.
Okay.
And I was thinking about that in the context of our lived experience the last few months, because I fall for everything. A magician shows, I'm just like, how did they do that? Where my fiance, Dane, is really good at not being distracted. So he identifies where the person wants him to look and he makes sure to look everywhere but there so he doesn't get the distraction. And I feel like that what's going on politically right now, the intention of the administration is to have a lot of sleight of hand. Look
And
here,
it's
look
an
here, look
emotional-
here. So you're not paying
Right.
attention to what's going on over there.
Okay, so we have all of these emotional distractions, but like there's a psychology around money, right?
Mhm.
And you've talked to me about behavioral finance, and so I would love it if you would share with your viewers some information just about like what is behavioral finance, right? And how to like when we're not confident, how does that impact the way that we're investing? Or when we are confident, right? How does that impact, I think, the way that we're I guess seeing the opportunities to grow our wealth, or to make sure that our organizations or businesses stay invested, so that we have a long-term strategy in
Mhm.
place.
Well, the as a financial planner, I bring a certain discipline to these conversations. I'm not the person that you would call and say, "Hey, I just won the lottery. What should I do?" I'm not going to have an answer. I'm going to have a lot of questions. What does the money need to do for you? What's important to you? What are your goals? Your time horizon? Your tolerance for volatility? Do you like the roller coaster? Some people love the up and down of a roller coaster. Some just want to go straight and slow. And knowing that about yourself and anticipating how you will react to inevitable changes when you're talking about looking at your portfolio, when you're looking at those numbers, is your head saying, oh, gee, perhaps there's a buying opportunity? or is your stomach going, what just happened?
I've
Run
experienced all of
away,
those
run
things and
away.
everything in between. So my belief was because he had talked about tariffs when he
Mhm.
was running as a candidate, that when this administration took office in in January, that tariffs were coming, and so I started pulling some of our money out of the market. I wish I had done it a little sooner, but I was happy that we pulled some out of the market. And then after Liberation Day, when the market plummeted, and I read voraciously all different, a number of different like investment sources on
Uh-huh.
a daily
Mhm.
basis. After, I don't remember how far we were after Liberation Day, I was like, okay, it kind of seems like maybe we've bottomed out now. And there's a certain portion of our money that I think we should put back into the market. We've certainly kept more on the sidelines than we normally have, both from an organizational standpoint and individually for Sherry and I, because I just think there's a lot of volatility, and I'm not overly confident.
Uh-huh.
And so I think that's why I've kept some on the sidelines just in case we need to get by, because I have a feeling you're going to tell me that, this too shall pass.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball, but as tough as this is emotionally, from a numbers standpoint, things are really not that different. I mean, we still rely on capital markets to influence us or influence our culture, et cetera. But it also, this is the only thing that has ever beat inflation. So when I talk to people about risks, one of the things that often I'm bringing to the conversation is the risk of not being able to keep up with your purchasing power.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about, for instance, your retirement, something that's going to not happen for quite a long time,
Hopefully
could
sooner than that. But yeah,
well,
we'll see.
define long time.
Yeah.
But if your money is under the mattress, you're going broke safely. We know for a fact that you are losing purchasing power. If you have enough money, put it under your mattress. That's fine. The first rule of financial planning is you don't take risks you don't need to take. But if we acknowledge that prices inevitably will go up, at the very least, I want to see everybody's dollars just keep their purchasing power. Retirement tends to be very expensive because a lot of times that coincides with some of our biggest healthcare issues, and that's not cheap. So being able to traverse that experience with grace and dignity is something I would wish for everyone. Again, if we had the advantage of planning early enough, we can set aside earmarked dollars that we recognize are going to probably experience highs and lows as long as they're there when we need them. I don't really care what the journey is like. I care about the destination.
So I'm almost hearing like have a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy
And a midterm
and a
strategy.
midterm strategy. Yes.
we love to earmark dollars. We like to say these are the dollars that, should there be an emergency,
Yep.
should there be a great opportunity, because I've got to be an optimist, right?
Yeah.
So talking about the emergency fund implies something bad happened, but we all have stories about some great opportunity that came our way that we could not take advantage of. We didn't have the cash. So I love the emergency and opportunity fund. I generally put a 2-year time horizon on that. I'm open to conversation. We have folks who sleep at night fund that they call that's 5 years of expenses. She doesn't care what else we do, as long as she's got 5 years of expenses set aside in something that is liquid and guaranteed. Everything else she's open. That's fine.
Let's go on an adventure, and I'm willing to take the risk or understand that this is a longer term
Mm-hmm.
investment, but I want to have 5. I would love to get
But-
to a place where we had 5
But
years.
for her, 5 years is the minimum. That's what we call her sleep at night fund.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the title in the plan.
I love it.
It's her sleep at night fund. Everything else is open for discussion. That's pretty long in my experience. Most people don't need 5 years, but my discipline is at least 6 months. Somewhere between 6 months and 5 years is probably everybody's sweet
So
spot.
everyone wants to be having, I'm going to call it the Great Opportunity Fund that
Mhm.
is has 6 months to 5 years worth of
Yeah,
expenses,
expenses.
and then the rest you can have invested, understanding that we're going to have highs and lows.
and be able to take advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
You know,
because these dips are buying opportunities. There's no question about it. If we look at, again, I'm going to focus. The trading by what I'm going to call insiders. They may not technically be insiders, but those who have enough information to anticipate the next policy move.
or
And
when like there's something on True Social that says it's a great time to, I don't know,
yeah,
like to invest,
to
or
invest. Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
time, something like that,
yeah,
right? And then all of a sudden
yeah.
we're going to put the tariffs on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I told you my aspiration is Queen of the Universe, one of my first proclamations will be that you cannot trade stocks if you are
An elected
an
official.
elected official.
I
Yeah.
think someone's trying to run a bill.
Oh, that's been around forever,
Yeah.
and I don't know that. That's why I need to be queen. So
I'm not.
I
I don't know that we need if there's a queen, then there's a king, and I just
No,
want to,
no.
you know,
of the universe,
of
though.
the universe.
I'm not
Oh, not
limiting
just of the
myself.
nation. Okay. All right. Well, maybe we can. I don't know. We'll discuss this later on. Okay. I want to switch gears, right? Because we've been talking about like how individuals and organizations are feeling in all of this chaos. There's one company in particular that I think is just living their pain very much in
Very
the
publicly.
public spotlight, and that's Target, right? Target a year or two ago, started were harassed by folks that didn't like their LGBTQ inclusive clothing, and so they started pulling some clothing or putting things in different places, and there was certainly a backlash there. Target had been known for being a very inclusive company, very much a actionable ally to the LGBTQ plus community. They had a really strong Black small business program in place. They're based in Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered. They seemed like they were a company that was led by their values, right? Like obviously they're in business. They're a retailer, but they seem to wear their values on their sleeves. And then a couple years ago, when they received some heat, they started kind of moving around a little bit, right? And when this administration came into office here in January, and all of these executive orders came out in a flurry, and so many of them were anti-DEI executive orders. Target was one of the first companies to say, you know what, we're gonna pull back on places that we've been, right? And they're a publicly traded company, and their first quarter came out, and I mean, they really took a hit. And I think that they are a cautionary tale, for individuals, for people that are in elected office, and I would say for businesses that are publicly traded or organizations that just do work, right? That if you don't weather the storm and just do right by whatever your value proposition is, no one's going to be happy.
There are those of the other side of the philosophy that you and I share, who are pointing to Target's experience as see what happens if you adopt these policies. Look what the left will punish you with if you
I
become right thinking. So I mean, they're also kind of being martyred as well.
Well, our first tagline at One Community was "You vote with your wallet every day." I don't believe in boycotting. I do believe in, to borrow from our dear friends at Local First, shifting the way you shop and choosing to spend money with businesses that are values aligned, right? And so I think that they are having such difficulty because I don't think anybody really knows what their value proposition is, right?
You know what? And I think that's that kind of ambiguity. Remember, we were talking earlier about uncertainty.
Yeah.
That kind of ambiguity is. I feel sorry for those who have to make decisions. I know which ones I would make, and I would encourage them to do, which is just the right thing. It's not
Well,
that hard.
and if this is your ethos and this is just a part of your corporate culture, here's the other thing, right? So, like, let's just talk about attracting and retaining top talent. I'm totally going,
Yes. No, no, no.
I'm
You're
going
you're.
down another rabbit hole. But every generation is more culturally diverse,
Mhm.
right? So Gen Z, 22% of Gen Z identify as being members of the LGBTQ plus community, right? Gen Alpha, who are the kids in school right now, they're the first minority majority generation in America's history, which is why I think we have so much of this pressure right now around diverse and marginalized communities, right? But if you look ahead, right, and you have a client who needs to have a 5 years to sleep well at night fund, which it's a great goal to have. If you look ahead, I think it's by 2030, Gen Z is going to have something like $3.2 trillion worth of buying power, right? And so it's windy out there right now. It's stormy. There's a lot of pressure towards inclusivity and a lot of diverse communities. Our LGBTQ plus community, definitely being one of them. People that are members of the immigrant communities, refugees, are all in the crosshairs right now under this current administration and what their intent is. But if you look ahead
Mhm.
5 years, why would you want to lose that spend? Because you have to have a sustainability plan in
Mhm.
place.
Yeah.
And so if you want to sleep well at night, I would say, and you're a corporate entity, you're better off being values aligned and sticking to whatever your values are and weathering the storm on coming out the other side. And I mean, that's my overall conversation with our community as well, with our LGBTQ plus inclusive community, is that we need to stick together and be there for one another and be there in community. And we're going to get through this together, but you can't go around this, right?
No.
And I kind of feel like I feel like they were kind of trying to dodge some
Bob and weave.
things.
Yep. Yeah. But if I'm a business owner selling retail to consumers, I had better know who my market is.
Yeah.
And the poll I read, probably the same poll showing that the Gen Z and Gen Alpha are more likely to identify as LGBTQ, at the very least be inclusive.
Yeah.
If that's my market, why on earth would I not?
Well, why would you disillusion your market? But
Yeah.
Catherine, you're a fine example. I talk about Janine on our team. When I look at the LGBTQ, to me, it's the LGBTQ plus inclusive community, right? That's our LGBTQ community, and it's our allies,
Mhm.
our actionable allies who are values aligned, and I think sometimes can be even more demonstrative in the choices that they make, right? In showing their actionable allyship, right? So I think this is I do think there's opportunities in front of us, right? I think we all have to, do some soul searching, and we're going to find out who our friends are because we're living through an adverse time. But if we choose to go through this together and be in community together, there are bright spots that are starting to show
Absolutely.
themselves,
Mhm.
and I believe that we'll come out of this.
Well, one of the things that I'm so aware of my good fortune and privilege, but I have a lot of choices on how to spend my money. So I have a lot of alternatives. So if I choose not to spend here, chances are very good I'm still going to be able to get what I want there. And it's a wonderful, powerful position to be in, to not only make my choices, but to share my choices. My family knows that, there are certain places we just drive by. Oh, but there's a coupon, there's a sale. Yeah, but we don't do business with that organization based on
That's our
some.
choice, right?
Exactly.
I do think consumer activism is alive and well. It was really kind of the founding principle from when we started One Community 16 years ago, right? Which was, again, like, lean into businesses that you think share your values. And so now I want to go back to the financial planning piece of that, right? Like, talk about the complexities of walking your clients through that. Is values based investing on the rise for
Oh,
you?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we're not even the ones bringing it up. It's really interesting that so many of our clients long relationships are now asking for more screening.
Mm.
Now, in the world in which I work, which is, I'm going to air quote, average people, we do have some very, very wealthy clients, but most of our clients are just average working class families, small business owners. Many of them, the vast majority of their wealth is in their employer retirement plan and or in the equity in their homes. So with regard to the employer plans, they're virtually all mutual funds.
Okay.
So I can't tell you how often we have the experience with new clients who say, I'm very well diversified. I contribute to 7 mutual funds in my 401k. And we look at those mutual funds, we kind of x-ray them, and we find what we call overlap, where you have 7 managers essentially doing the same thing, so that you have a higher concentration of stocks in 1 or 2 companies than you might have otherwise thought. So my goal is to get everyone to know what they own. Spend some time. If
Know
that's
what you
if
own.
you're, I'm neither pro nor con mutual fund. I mean, they're a great tool in the right situation. But if you don't know what's inside your mutual fund, then it's pretty hard for you to determine if it's appropriate for you, for your goals, for your time horizon, and for that values screen that I hope that you're using.
And to your point, more people are using a value screen.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And you know, no, I'm not trying to beat up on Target. No disrespect to them.
Yeah.
They're just consistently in the news
Mhm.
for reasons that I don't
Right.
believe they actually want to be in the
Oh,
news for. and
Nope.
and if you look at their first quarter, I just think that that is consumerism in people voting with their wallet.
Mhm.
And so I think it's it's a remarkable learning experience for organizations and corporations to just say, hey, we're a values aligned organization and this is what we
Mhm.
stand for and we're just going to walk through this
But,
together.
it's interesting to look at successful and unsuccessful boycotts through history and see what we can learn from those. I mean, boycotts have made incredible social change. We can point to
Yeah.
desegregation. We can point to uh, environmental and fair labor practices, just a number of things that really came about because people voted with their wallets. They said, we're not doing business under these circumstances. I've lived in Arizona my whole life. I still have great memories of, not great, happy, but great intense memories of when nobody would come to Arizona
SB
because of
1070.
1070.
Yeah,
Right,
when the whole nation boycotted our
right.
state, right?
Yeah, and so, very, very powerful, and it was the business community that went, "Hey, we've got to make
Well,
changes."
again, so 4 years after 1070, we had SB 1062,
Mhm,
and you know, we just were I like to say accidentally prepared because we'd launched the Unity Pledge a year before, and we had close to 800 businesses and member-based organization that had taken that pledge in the first year. And when we heard about SB 1062, having lived through 1070, we
mhm,
knew we had to get
right.
involved. And we were able to really activate Unity Pledge businesses to really take a lead position. And we created this cool little sign, open for
Uh-huh.
business to everyone. And we were able to work together to encourage Governor Brewer to do the right thing. And I'll never forget like seeing the national news and Chris, not Chris Matthews, I'm forgetting his name, but he's a MSNBC host. And he was like, according to one community, and they had the quote up that had come out from the Super Bowl committee, the 2015 Super Bowl committee, saying that they were opposed to SB 1062 and in the business. And I really think that was the beginning of just socially responsible business advocacy in the state. The business community learned that by not participating during SB 1070, that horrible things could happen.
Mhm.
And I had had conversations with business leaders when we saw SB 1062 moving, and the first comments that I got from leaders were, "Well, we're the business community. We don't get involved in social justice issues." And my response was, Well, no one's going to want to live in a state that continues to discriminate. This is an economic sustainability issue. And I think so many of these issues that we like to couch in a certain way, we have to understand how connected things are.
Sure.
And that you can't just say, oh, no, that's not our lane. Because if you are doing damage to a state's reputation, its ability to attract and retain top talent because you are passing discriminatory laws, you are negatively impacting the sustainability of the state.
Mhm.
And for the great state of Arizona, I want to make sure that we all we can sleep well at night for 5 years plan, right?
That's right. That's right. But we are so blessed with incredible resources, both natural resources, economic resources, and this culture of these great young people. I can't tell you how blessed I feel to be involved not only in my business but various community organizations where I get to surround myself with young, brilliant people.
Yeah.
And I want them to stay here, please.
They're our future.
They're the future of our country,
Yes.
but I don't want them fulfilling that future in another state. I'd like them to find a reason to be here because I want continued access to them. They're
Well,
fabulous.
we have so much potential, and I think what we're all working towards in our own way really is to get to that 5-year we can sleep well
Sleep
at night plan
Yep.
for our great state,
Yep.
right? So speaking of that, my final question is always the same. What is your dream for Arizona?
I was born and raised here. I'm second generation, so I love this place. As a business owner, I very strongly believe in spending my dollars with locally owned businesses, encouraging others to do the same, to continue to support this wonderful culture that we have. One of our taglines in our practice, probably the one we use the most often, is you don't have to be wealthy to be wise. So I think that the goal should be wisdom. And if you attain the wisdom, the wealth will follow. And whether that's in your personal finances, whether it's in our local government, our state government, our country's government, let's look for wisdom. And wisdom is usually pretty hard earned. Nobody gets to hand it to you. There's usually some bruises and scars that get you there. But once you've got it, you get to keep it.
Let's be wise. Catherine
Yeah.
Scrivano, thank you so much. This has been a
Thank you.
delight. I appreciate you.
I always enjoy spending time with you, and I love one community.
Well, that's what you end on.
There you go.